Welcome back to another RC Hospice Talk. This is episode 3 in season 3, and we've titled it, Why Am I Still Here? I'm Tom Rupp, and I'm the chaplain here at RC Hospice. And over the years, dealing with people in hospice care, I've often run up on individuals who, as they transition towards death, also struggle with their purpose and their meaning in life. One time I was visiting a gentleman in a facility, and he was bedridden. He still had his mental faculties and still was able to feed himself, but that was about the extent. And he had enjoyed quite the ambitious life. He was very outgoing and had made an impression on a lot of people. But one day as I was visiting him, and he was laying there in the bed, and I was going on my visit as normal, I thought. And by normal, oftentimes it involves surface issues. How you doing? How you feeling? What's going on in your life today? That sort of thing. Small talk, but a lot of times the small talk is what helps fill the time and the space for a person to feel comforted and listened to. Well, we were engaging in our small talk, and then this gentleman said something to me that stopped me, and I had to really start digging and searching. When he looked at me and he said, "Why am I still here?" It's a question that many of us ask, no matter if we are in hospice or not. It's a life question, a question of our destiny. What is my destiny? What is the plan for my life? What is the reason I am here? What is God's purpose for me? For today, this very day in which I live. Maybe I have the big picture, but what about right now and right here? What does this very day have to do with God's big plan for my life? You know, it's good to have a vision of a big plan for your life, some sort. There's a thing called the Westminster Shorter Catechism. Some of you may know that if you're churchgoers. And the initial statement says, the question is, what is the chief end of man? And the answer is to glorify God and to enjoy Him forever. Now, I know that's broad, but I tell you what, that's a vision. That is a goal of a life, to be able to say, I'm going to glorify God. I'm going to enjoy Him forever. That kind of purpose, that kind of vision gives your life meaning. It gives your life a direction, when oftentimes it may appear to be directionless. One of the books I've read that I've recommended, and I think in one of our previous hospice talks I may have even mentioned this book, is Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor. Viktor Frankl was a survivor of the death camps in World War II. And he wrote a book afterwards about how he got through mentally, how he got through in his life. And a couple things he mentioned, but the primary premise of this book is where he says this, if I may quote. He says, "Everything can be taken from someone except for one thing. The last of human freedoms is to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances, to choose one's own way." He said, that's the one thing you have control over in your hands, in your destiny, is the ability to set the direction of your life. In fact, he has a quote here from another philosopher. Some of you may recognize the name of Friedrich Nietzsche, but he has this quote from Nietzsche: "He who has a why to live can bear with almost any how." If you have the why down, then how you live is more easily taken care of. If you know your direction, then the day-by-day drudge won't be so discouraging, perhaps, or off-putting. Having said all that, for a moment I come back to my friend in the hospital bed. Yeah, why am I still here? And not to give him a pat answer or a cliche, and I was thinking, one of the first thoughts that came to me was, they do not teach you this in any Bible school class or minister college or any course. What to say to a person who asks you that kind of question. I began, of course, in my scramble. I was thinking of Viktor Frankl, and in a moment I'll read from the Bible. I was thinking of some Bible verses, but I didn't want to just throw Bible verses at this question. To salt and pepper it with some verses that might, okay, now it's palpable. Now you can swallow this and it'll be tasteful. I didn't want to do that. And so I continued in my head to scramble. The Bible does say in Psalm 31 verse 15, it says, "My times are in your hand." Our times are in God's hand. Why am I still here? Well, I don't know exactly the reason perhaps at first, but I do know that we are in God's hand and that we are here today by His plan. There's a verse in the New Testament, in the book of Philippians. Paul wrote this letter in Philippians chapter 1, and he says a famous phrase first, famous to many Christians, in Philippians 1 verse 21, when he says, "For me to live is Christ, and to die is gain." So that's a great statement of faith. If I live for Jesus. And when I die for Him to be with Him. For the Christian, that's a win-win. Either way, it's good. But then after that verse, Paul says this. He says, I am hard-pressed between two things. I am stuck between two options. He says, I have a desire to depart and be with Christ, which is far better. Nevertheless, to remain here in the flesh is needful for you. Paul said, in essence, I'm stuck, I'm caught between two desires. The desire to go and the desire to stay. Why am I still here? This question especially can resonate with people who used to be active, used to be influential. Maybe you used to do stuff where people looked up to you, that kind of thing. So yeah, as you lay there in bed with a hospice diagnosis, it can eat at you. Why am I still here? Paul struggled with this. Perhaps you struggle with this. I would say most of us, if we were honest from time to time, bandy this question about. Why am I still here? So, it may have seemed like 30 or 40 minutes, but it was probably only about 20 seconds in my head. And I really didn't want to say any cliches. I really didn't want to just say something that was empty or meaningless. I finally came up with, maybe God gave it to me, I will say, I hope, an answer. Why am I still here? And with as much pastoral care and concern as I could muster, this was, again, not a thoughtless or cliched answer, I said to my friend, well, for so many years, you were the person that helped others. You were the person that led others and that others looked up to. And you were the one that was in the limelight, and others helped to serve you in that regard. And now you are giving other people an opportunity to show you love, to show you care, concern, and compassion, to show you that they too can be leaders, that they too can show this kind of love. You are giving people an opportunity to serve. And that's not a bad thing. That is a good thing. Well, I hope that answer sufficed. I believe it did. It seemed to put together some of the dots in his head. And as a postscript, it wasn't much longer before my friend left this world to head to heaven. And I still think about him and about that question, because since that time I've heard it some more. And you know what? Every once in a while, I kind of ask myself the same question. Why am I still here? The fact that God has given us another day is the reason enough for us to know that there is a purpose, a meaning, a reason in our current existence. I would encourage you to pray, to read the Word, and to find God's direction for your life. As a Christian, I got to tell you that when I immerse myself in the Bible, when I allow its words to control my thoughts and feelings, it helps me to approach life from a biblical standpoint. Other things are not influencing me to the extent that God's Word can, to help me answer the question, why am I still here? We'd love to talk to you some more if you'd like us to hear from us. Our phone number is 916-858-1440. And until we meet again, let me encourage you to find God's why for your life today.